this video, we're going to look at how to add and subtract two complex numbers. So we defined what we meant by a complex number in the previous video. In this one, we're going to start looking at the arithmetic of complex numbers, and specifically we'll start with addition and subtraction. So let's say we have a complex number. Remember, it's something in the form a plus bi, where a and b are real numbers. And then let's say we want to add a second complex number to the first one. So we'll call the second one c plus di. So we have a plus bi plus c plus di. Well, this is equal to a plus c. So all I'm really doing here is rearranging these four terms. I've got a plus bi plus c plus di. Just like with real numbers, you can reorder these however you want. So I'm going to put a and c at the front. So we've got a plus c. And then we have plus bi plus di. So I've just taken the two imaginary parts, bi and di, and put them at the end. So I've just reordered the four terms, and then we can factor out the I in the second bracket. So we get a plus c, and then if we take the I out of the bracket, we get b plus d all times by I. So the point here is, if you have two complex numbers of the form a plus bi and c plus di, and you add them up, the question to ask is, how do I write this also in the form real part plus imaginary part? Well, this is how we do it. We just add up the real parts, a plus c, and then we add up the imaginary parts, b plus d, and times by I, and that gives us the answer. Okay, now let's look at subtraction. So it's going to work in much the same way. So we have a plus bi minus c plus di. This is equal to, so I've just done it in one go here. I've subtracted the real part from the second one from the first one. So I've done a minus c, and then I've done bi minus di. So subtract the imaginary part in the second number from the imaginary part in the first. So I get a minus c plus bi minus di. And once again, I factor out the I, so I get a minus c plus b minus di. So all you need to do to add or subtract complex numbers is add their real parts and add their imaginary parts. So let's look at an example. Compute the following. So first question we have is 3 plus I plus minus 2 plus 4i. Well, what do? We say that the real part is going to be 3 plus minus 2, which is 3 minus 2. So we're just adding up the real parts. And then the imaginary part will be 1 plus 4i. So we're just adding up the imaginary parts. The first one is 3 plus I. So the imaginary part, the number timesing the I, is just 1. And then the imaginary part in the second number is 4. So we get 1 plus 4i. And then we just calculate these brackets, and we get 1 plus 5i. So 3 minus 2 is 1, and then 1 plus 4 is 5. So the real part of the answer is 1, and the imaginary part is 5. Okay, let's try a second example. So b is I minus 4 minus 3i. So here, our first complex number is just I, which is a complex number. It's a complex number where the real part is set to 0, so a is 0, and then the imaginary part is just 1. So we get 0 plus 1i, which is just I. And then our second complex number is 4 minus 3i, and we're subtracting it. So what do we get? Well, the real part is going to be 0. That's the real part of the first number. We said that I doesn't have a real part. Minus 4, the real part of the second number. And then we add to that the imaginary part, which is 1. That's the imaginary part of the first number. We have 1 times I, plus 3. Now, why is it plus 3? Well, it's minus 3. So we're subtracting the second number, but the second number has as its imaginary part minus 3, so we get minus 3 equals plus 3. So 1 plus 3i. Work out the brackets, and we get minus 4 plus 4i. Okay, so hopefully you understand how, if we have two complex numbers, we could add them up or subtract them. We just add up or subtract their real parts and add up or subtract their imaginary parts.